Welcome to Question Everything, where we question everything because why not? Today, we have Oscar Sundman, and we are going to find out who he is, what he does, how he does it, why he does it, when he does it, and when it started. And then we're going to find out where we can follow him. Oscar, are you ready?
I am indeed, brother. Thank you for having me, and thank you for facilitating the space. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for being here. Now, we met through Kiara Nicole, who was on the show 2 episodes ago, which eternally grateful for that episode because that was a great recap of the events that transpired at Offer Mastery Live. Truly a ball of joy she is, and I just love her energy, and I watched her come alive, and now I get to meet the other half. This is exciting. So who is Oscar Sundman? Tell us.
It's a question I've been pondering upon since about 2015. Who am I? And I've asked more or less everybody that I come across, who are they? And most people would give their name. And I like Shakespeare's take on it. A rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. So, okay, we strip your name, then who are you? And most people go on to then describe themselves as the thing that enslaved them. So like, oh, I'm a school teacher, or I'm a doctor, or you identify with a 9 to 5 basically. Okay, but we strip that away, then who is the doctor? And I have come to a place where I'm like, I fully don't know what I am. I think I have some theories, and I think I am a spark of joy, the essence of God just incarnating here to experience itself through the 5 senses. So yeah, I am, as God would have said it, I am that I am.
Ooh.
In that I have taken on this mask, this persona, pretending to be Oscar Sundman, breathwork teacher, brother, son, father, and so on.
Man, that is the deepest answer, but most honest I've ever heard for who are you. And that was the first episode on Question Everything was who are you? And talking about identity, like unless we know our true identity and who we are based on whose we are, we'll always identify by name. Or like I love what you said, the thing that enslaves us. That's beautiful. Cause like the first time someone asked me who I was, it was a list of all the things that I thought made me who I am. And it frustrated me to no end. But you got it. You got it down. I love that.
As I said, it's been what, 8 years in contemplating it and trying to formulate it and putting it to some sort of succinct. And it's starting to become formal, like a formal idea, but it is abstract still. So
hey, even abstract, it sounds beautiful.
So
did I hear breath work? You did this, you said breath work. Is that what you do?
That is indeed what I do. So at the age of 19, I was like, okay, I want to see the world. I had finished a course at the University of Stockholm, which was rhetoric. So basically the art of persuasion, or standing, talking on stage. And I thought, let's have a sabbatical. I went a year to Australia, did some fundraising on the streets, did a lot of different jobs, and just experienced life. Came home March 2016, and a month after that, I lost my mother to cancer. It was me, my older brother, and my twin brother. We were sitting in the room. She was laying on the bed. So her 3 lion cubs had grown up. We were like, we'd all left the nest, so to speak. And she was the one raising us most. My older brother, we have a different father, but he wasn't that much around. And when we were younger, often as mother do, they take the role as the nest, basically. So she had filled that role, and I think she felt like, okay, my mission here on earth, my incarnation is complete. And before she took her last breath, she winked and said, I will be the first to know what will happen now, guys. So I'll see you on the other side. But so she still had humor in it. So that felt really good. But we were all sitting around there, and she took her last breath. And I was like, oh. It was such a weird and surreal thing to see somebody not inhaling again. It's like we all, like after every exhale, an inhale will come. And that started making me think. So I was like, okay, what have I been doing a lot? So I've been meditating, I've been reading the sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, like all of these things, they had intrigued me already, but that really cataclysmed the journey for me. Like, okay, I need to get some answers to like, who am I? What is this place? Where did we come from? What happens after that last breath? And it led me down the journey to yoga. So 2 years later, after doing extensive amount of self-medication, meditation, and breath work as another type of self-medication, we were out on a walk, me and my two brothers. We were in the forest, and we looked at each other and we were like, what is our passion? What do we want to do in life? And we all boiled it down to some simplicity. So we said mental and physical health, spirituality, and movement. So I guess that goes around with the physical and mental health. And we were like, okay, but what combines that? We started looking around. We found yoga, we found India, we found a couple of months of training. We flew down, the three of us. We completed 500 hours, where I actually met Kira, because she was my yoga teacher when I became a yoga teacher. So she was my 200-hour teacher. And I really, really fell in love with the practice, with the tangible steps. Like if
Yeah.
you feel stressed, do this breath work.
Yeah.
Like if you have back pain, do this posture. And like you'll get a really tangible book that you can work through, and you can be like, okay, I have tools now that I can use to encounter problems in life. So okay, I feel super anxious. Well, this breathing technique will lower you down. So I spent a year after my studies teaching this to other yoga teachers in Spain. And since then, I've been in Chamonix, France, where I started up a place called the Edelweiss Yoga Shala together with an old student of me and Kira. So we created, his father was the first man who reached 8,000-meter climbing. So big shout out to Matthias Herzog and your father if you ever checked this, but because me and Kira had just returned from doing the base camp. So we had been like 4,000 meters. We were at the yoga school, and I was like, anybody know about Annapurna base camp? And he was like, yeah, my father was the first to climb it and the first over 8,000.
Wow.
Okay. But so he has a huge mansion in there. So we started a yoga retreat center there where we spent some time. And then we flew down to Spain, where we continued to work with yoga teacher training. And my role in there was holding the pranayama, or the breathwork module, where we teach breathwork to people. So that's a little bit about, well, how I came across breathwork. And yeah,
And what you do, man,
indeed.
that's amazing. So I heard a lot, but I didn't take notes because I was so enthralled in how the story unfolded. Um, First of all, sorry for your loss, but I'm glad that your mom was able to. I feel like my mom's going to do the same thing. Just that humorous thing where, you know, uh, ha, I get to see first.
Yeah. I mean, and it's really, I think, alleviated the whole thing of like, I think in the Western world, death is something that we try to push away. Like we don't talk about that, something wrong. It shouldn't supposed to happen.
Right,
But something Myron has said that I've heard it before, but I really like the analogy. Like you would never find a one-sided piece of paper.
right. Or one sided
So
coin or one sided piece of bread. Like everything has two sides and both sides are necessary. Absolutely.
exactly. So if you have life, what will be on the backside of life?
Right,
Death. And what would be on the backside of death? A life. So it has really become clear that there is no like separate events. Like, oh my God, after that like it's bound to be then once again. And you're probably familiar with the thinker Alan Watts, or the philosopher.
yes.
So his saying is, okay, try to see how it would be to go to bed and never wake up. And
Mm.
when you think long enough about that, you will realize it proposes another question. How was it to wake up after never having gone to bed? That's when you're born. So then we have full circle.
Never thought of that.
Well, it's crazy, yeah. But it
And then
makes so
like
much sense.
once we wake up, we are the only species that is rendered completely useless and needs to be taken care of for at least the first 5 to 12 years
Easy, easy. I mean, I
before.
love it's crazy.
Yeah, wow. Wow. So another thing that popped out to me, you mentioned yoga and breath
Yep,
work. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yoga is the combination of breath and life, like movement and breath.
exactly. So when you come to study yoga, you realize that, or at least like the grandfather of all yoga is called Ashtanga yoga. And it basically, Ash is 8 and Tanga is limbs. So the 8 limbs of yoga. And these are very similar to like the Buddha's 8th path
Hmm.
to nirvana and all of those. And the first 2 steps as a yogi would be very, very, very similar to the 10 commandments. So like you should not steal, you should not harm, you should treat people with respect, abstain from sex or abstain from indulging in worldly pleasures and stuff like that. And then it's after those first 5, which are like restraints, then there are 5s, which are like, okay, study, keep clean, take care of yourself. And the last of them are surrender to a supreme being. It doesn't
Mm,
really state a supreme being, but it just states that like for you to truly get out of your ego or to be ready to like leave the mind for a while, uh, acknowledge that there is something bigger than you. And I've been a big fan of Cat Williams for the longest time, and he was on Joe Rogan's quite recently, and I've been often been heard like, oh, can you show me a proof of God? And he was like, but when you look around, everything is proof of a creator. Like it's intelligent design everywhere. Like how can you, like I can look at this pen and I'd be like, oh, somebody designed this.
right,
I look out into a tree and like, it's designed. Like I
right.
don't, that's not a 13 billion years of coincidence. Or I mean, if it is, it's the craziest thing ever. So I feel that's more of a fairy tale than oh, there's a designer or a creator to this planet.
Yeah, yeah. I so it's funny you mentioned that the everything is design. It's kind of the thought process that, like, as I became a UX designer, I realized that design has always been everywhere. God is the original designer. And even the Cybertruck, with such a blunder on a design, was designed, right? Like, even if it's not beautiful design, like a
It's
duck-billed platypus, it's still designed for a purpose. It's designed to serve a purpose. It's designed for a specific type of person, and if it doesn't appeal to you, it will appeal to someone else. Like the mindset that we approach life from, because of Western world and our philosophies, is a mindset of scarcity or lack. And so we believe, like, for example, I wanted to be a yoga teacher, and I was going to take the 2000 hours or 200 hours or whatever it was. I think it was 200
yeah,
hours
yeah,
at the lifetime gym, but it was like $3,000. And I was like, I just invested $3,000 in a coach for coaching, and I haven't done that yet. So let me make my investment on that before I go do yoga. But people started considering me a shaman long before I was interested in yoga. And the scarcity mindset says, well, there's already so many yoga teachers out there, so there's no room for me, or there's already so many people doing podcasts and YouTube shows, YouTube channels, so why me? And the question needs to be, why not you? Right? There's only one Oscar Sundman, there's only one Gregory Rutledge, right? And there's a set amount of people that will either resonate with you or resonate with me, but they won't resonate with both. They
yeah,
may
yeah.
resonate with certain things from each of us, but just us, like, there's no script here. I have a list of questions we came up with before here that are just like literally one word: who, what, how, why, when, where. And then wherever the conversation goes, it goes. So tell me about how you do what you do with breath work and yoga, and, like, give us a process. Give your people and give our people something they can use today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will do that. Before I do that, I will just come back to the path of yoga. So
Okay.
the first 2 steps out of 8 are basically the 10 commandments. Then the third step on your journey to becoming a yogi would be what they call asana, which is basically the posture or
Poses.
the
Yeah.
movement. So here, what modern day yogis did, that they said, okay, but if you are a householder and you're contributing to society, you won't be able to do breathwork, meditation, concentration, asana, and all of this individually. So they put it together and said, okay, but if you do 2 hours of yoga while you breathe and move, you combine everything and you'll get the fast food of yoga. Like they'll packaged it so like the householders could do it as well. Because they were sitting in caves and they were like, okay, this is amazing. Like we've reached a new perspective or a new level of awareness. And we know that all the time. Like it switched for you the weekend when you were at the conference. Like, okay, I elevated my awareness. I see things from a different thing. This happened for the dudes in the caves, and they were like, we have to go down and spread this to the people in the villages. But then they were like, but they are working, they have a lot of assignments to do that they have to do so society can be upheld. So how can we give it to them in a package deal? So they did the Ashtanga yoga where you do the asanas and the breathing combined. So after the asanas, you got, in the traditional sense, you have pranayama, which is breath work.
Breath, yeah.
And the asanas traditionally is only to prepare you so you can sit and do your breathing. So if you have a body that are smooth and not an obstacle, you can go straight into breathing.
Mm.
And as you do breathing, something starts happening. When the mind starts going quiet, you'll be able to start withdraw your senses from the outside world. So in the beginning, if I were to sit down, like I'll go down to the local centrum or the local town, and I sit on the street there. And in the beginning, people were walking by. I was sitting cross-legged. I was thinking, oh my God, I'm stupid. Like, what are they thinking about me? But the more you do it, the less you'll be affected by the world around you. So you can draw your senses within. And when you draw your senses within, you can start concentrating, because you will realize that most of the time when you think you are thinking, you're actually listening. You're listening to thoughts and beliefs that people have been placed into your mind since you were a child. And those things are reinforced, and those things are going, thinking, is it 60,000 thoughts a day? And if you have a negative thought pattern, 75% of those will be negative and limiting, as you said. But you will start to be able to discern
5% of
this.
them are on repeat every day.
Exactly. So as you start sitting down, you start breathing, you start turning your awareness, your gaze inward. And here's a quote from St. John from the Cross: "A man who wishes to be sure of the road he treads must close his eyes and walk in the dark." And I think Myron speaks a lot about this as well. The eyes are useless if the mind is blind. So if a man wishes to be sure of the road he treads, he must close his eyes and walk in the dark.
Wow.
Walk from here. So we sit down, we start bringing our awareness, our gaze inwards. Then we come to the fifth step, which is concentration. Then you have meditation. Sorry, the fifth step is sense withdrawal. The sixth step is concentration. Seventh step is meditation, which is not doing anything. This is purely being. You're a human being. So when you enter a state of like, okay, I am, then true meditation is attained. Otherwise, it's only practicing concentration. And last of the steps as a yogi would become enlightened. They call it samadhi. There is no real equivalent of that word in today's language, but we say nirvana, enlightenment.
And the moment you think of samadhi or you've reached samadhi, you've lost it.
Exactly. So it's I think it's a little bit as contemplating God. Like there will be there's an ancient saying that goes neti, and it translates to not that. So anything you can point and say that is God, it will not be God. And I think the same is with samadhi. Like if you can verbalize it, it can't be it. Like it's beyond mind and word, just as God would be. So
Wow.
that's amazing.
Wow. So let me see if I got this. First part is similar to the 10 Commandments.
Exactly. Those are two. They're called yamas and niyamas. So the do's and the don'ts, and there are 10 of them.
Okay. So the first 5 are restraints and the next 5 are do's.
Exactly.
And you have the asana, the poses.
Yeah.
And you have the breath work.
Exactly.
And 4 was concentration.
Here, I mean, sensual withdrawal. They call it aparigraha. So the senses withdraw from the outside world. So like your gaze turn inward, your ears, like you withdraw your senses basically from the external world, and you become aware of this sixth sense, which is within you.
And then
6
5.
concentration. So that is 5. So we have yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, breathwork, and then we have sensual withdrawal, which is, and then you have, after 5, you have 6, which would become concentration.
Got it.
Sanskrit word might be dharana. Oh, they're one of those two. And then 7 is meditation.
Okay.
And then 8.
Oh, 8.
8, the final step is liberation, samadhi.
Samadhi. That's it.
But I'll bring it straight back to your question. Something that the listeners can do here and now and really, really get value from is pay attention on your nose. What you see in your face is only 1/3 of your nose. So if you were to run your tongue from the back of your mouth to the front of your teeth, that's the roof of the mouth, but it's the floor of your nose. So from the back to the front, what you would consider the roof of your mouth is the floor of your tongue, is the floor of your nose. So this is only 1/3.
My nose just got so much bigger. Okay.
And the nose, it's a very peculiar thing because we have something called the nasal cycle. So there is a little bit of a dispute about this, but say between 90 and 120 minutes, the nasal cycle will change. So you will sometimes, if you were to put your finger like this underneath your nose and then blow, can you feel a nostril that is more open, more dominant in airflow?
Left.
Left is a little bit more dominant. Okay, that's cool. So now you're in a parasympathetic nervous system response. This was a man called Otto who got a Nobel Prize discovering this thing. So when left nostril is more dominant, your body is in a parasympathetic nervous system response, which means rest and digest. When your right nostril is more dominant, you're in a fight or flight. Like you're ready to, your body is running on your sympathetic nervous system. So this is a little remote. So if you want to be creative and coloring with your kids, or, you know, understand abstract things, well, block your right nostril, inhale and exhale only through your left. You will boost your parasympathetic nervous system. You will stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, meaning it will put your body in rest and digest. You will also activate your right hemisphere of your brain, which is more feminine, more creative, more loving, more kind, more empathic. And if you breathe through your left nostril while blocking, if you breathe through your right while blocking your left, you'll activate your sympathetic nervous system response. So this is great before you're gonna go to the gym, you know, if you're gonna crush some hard maths, or you have to, you know, you have to sit with stuff where focus, alertness, and less empathy is needed. So those are things that you can directly use, and you can check yourself throughout the day as well. Am I working on a parasympathetic or a sympathetic? And then you can regulate yourself with this little remote.
Wow. And I've got 2 buttons.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Your shoes. And maybe you're super anxious in front. Maybe you're gonna have to talk with your boss. You feel super anxious. We'll do a few rounds of only left nostril breathing. If you feel like, okay, I want balance, I need clarity, then do a little bit of both. Inhale through left, exhale through right. Inhale through right, exhale through left. This is a breath work as we spoke a little bit about the first time I think we chatted, and it's called Nadi Shodhana, or Anulom Vilom. It basically means just alternate nostril breathing. or the direct translation is actually fascinating. And here it brings back to the old yogis. So they called it Nadi Shodhana. And Nadi, if there is yogis looking at this, I might get some heat, but I am starting to think that the ancient yogis describe what we are describing as the nervous system, but they had different names to it. So they said that within our body, we have 72,000 energy channels. 3 of them are the main ones. The biggest one they call the most gracious and holy river known to man. It's called the Shushumna. So it's basically along our spine. If I were to place it on the body, it would be along the spine, so along the 7 chakras.
Hmm.
The Shushumna. Here, all cosmic energy or prana flows, or if I were in China, they would probably call it Qi. It flows through there. And if this would be the Shushumna, on either side of it, you have 2 smaller energy channels that zigzags like a double helix. They call Ida and Pingala, and Ida is our left one, which is our parasympathetic nervous system. So if I do left nostril breathing, I stimulate Ida. If I do right, I stimulate Pingala. So maybe there is an even subtler level to our mechanics than the nervous system, or they just, without having the science that we have today, and you can see the nervous system, you can dissect, they tapped into it. They could feel, okay, I feel more relaxed here. We call it Ida. I feel more energized here. They call it Pingala. And they also they call this the lunar channel and this the solar channel. So if you need to heat up as well, you do solar breathing. If you need to cool down, you do lunar breathing.
Wow.
Chandra Bedana, Surya Bedana, some Sanskrit names for the nerdy people like me out there.
I'm right there with you.
I hope that was of some value, and I hope that could be incorporated. I would like to just sprinkle in another one there because I just love sharing this. It's a passion of mine. So there is something called coherent breathing. So it's basically when you do about 6 breaths per minute or 5.5 breaths per minute. And when we go watch Catholics in the church, they sing the Ave Maria. So the priest recites half of it and we recite half of it back. When we do this thing, we're taking 5.5 breaths per minute as the prayer goes on. So another word for slow breathing is prayer. Because then we go and look at the Buddhists and they chant Om Mani Padme Hum. 6 seconds out, 6 seconds in. You go and check on the Hindus when they chant their sacred syllable Om. 6 seconds out, 6 seconds in. And what happens when we do coherent breathing or resonant breathing is that we're stimulating our body, our temple, our nervous system, our heartbeat, and our brain starts shift in frequency. So we get closer to, we experience a diviner state or a closeness to divinity when our temple is in harmony, which makes sense. I think it's funny as well how big the singing bowls have become. And you go to a church and you were like, okay, they had some huge singing bowls hanging in the roofs, dong, 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 and 100% that was just beautiful harmony spread out to the masses when we were there. And I do believe in the power of coming together. But if you are alone and you want to practice prayer and you mean like, I don't know any prayers. Well, if you exhale and inhale, so your breath is about 5.5, 6 breaths per minute, you'll get the benefits of prayer, but only silently focusing on your breath. So that's another little tip for everybody out there. And if you feel like, okay, it's so much information, I don't know how to do this, hit me up and I'll take you through a couple of classes so you can get this routine up and going so you can live the life that's actually worth living.
Man, and I remember hearing about Steve Jobs's journey to India and the ascension that happened, and the thing he brought back was disruptive to 5 industries, like changed them for forever. He literally put a dent in the universe by breathing different, by getting in touch with his true self and elevating to that. Like I was just doing I don't know if it was 5.5 breaths per minute, but I know I was breathing really slow and I was noticing the peace come over me. I was feeling like the hairs on my body stand up. I was feeling more in tune with what you're saying and less in tune with what I'm going to say next or how I'm going to respond. And then you did something just now that said, don't feel bad when you're not praying like the other people pray or like the prayer warriors do, right? Because that's not you. I've learned, I've created a habit of breathing slowly more than I do anything else because I know the value of being centered. And I realize I'm praying all the time now. And that's why life is like it is. And now it all makes sense. Wow. I didn't even realize I was doing that. Silent prayer, because prayer doesn't need work.
No,
God already knows. He just needs you to slow down and spend time with him.
exactly.
So that is powerful. I hope that people's brains are sweating, as Myron says.
Sweaty
'Cause,
bread.
yeah, and it's weird because like the brain is overactive right now in taking in this new information, and people once after hearing this, they're never going to be able to be the same. I'm never going to be able to see it the same after this, and I love that. So I guess my next question, because that's a lot of value, and if they want any more, they're gonna have to come to you. Because
I think that's a fair exchange.
yeah, absolutely. And they've got enough to get started, so that when they don't know where to go from here, which even if they just did what you told them,
Yeah,
change their life forever. It's
100%,
deeper.
100%. And I think for most people, like all this information is out there. I think for most people, it's not about maybe obtaining the information. For me, it was at least I needed to be held accountable.
Mm,
I needed to be supported because there will be times when you're like, I can't be bothered about this, or what is it actually gonna do? And it's so easy to rationalize ideas up in your head,
yep.
lie to yourself, think you're getting away with it.
Mm,
If you have somebody like me and you come with excuses, I don't want to hear them. I'm gonna be
eh,
completely honest with you. Like,
I don't know what to
yeah,
tell
so
you.
those excuses, I don't buy them. So go and do your breath work and life will change.
Mm,
So
accountability is a huge part of it.
I think so. And as Myron always says, like if you know how to do it, why haven't you done it already?
Mm,
And I mean, if you start doing it now and you haven't done it every day for a week from now, then come hit me up and we will make sure that you get into your routines. We start building some positive momentum, and then you will be like a train leaving the station. Ain't no stopping you.
ain't no stopping us now on the move. Yes. So I guess my next question would be why? Why this?
That's a good question. And for me, it just, as I said, when I saw my mother take my last breath or her last breath, and I started focusing in on the breath and I started experience the power of the breath, I was like, oh my God, this has changed my life. And if it can change my life, let's see if it can change other people's life. And after have teaching this to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of people, seeing how their life is changed, it's like, okay, well, I can't stop now. Like if I can equip you with the tools to find peace.
Sorry.
No
I'm
worries.
trying not to see the grab this book.
The better half.
Sorry,
It's so good to see you. I'm learning from the master.
Yeah. Sorry,
How are you,
baby
baby?
flow. Good, thank you. Oh,
Amazing.
goodness.
Ooh, the Bible of Ashtanga.
Yeah.
I love it.
Is there a front page of that actually?
No, it's come off. There's a front page of this one.
Okay. There is a missing front page, but for all the people that are like, okay, I want to understand the 8 steps of yoga
Yeah.
for myself, get your hands on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. He lays it all out there. It's a fantastic read. I'm not on any commission at all, but this dude called
By this ancient guy potentially.
no, but this dude called Gregor Malo has a fantastic breakdown on it. So if you want to go and check that out as well, go do it.
Dr. Wayne Dyer talked about Patanjali all the time. And I think it's funny, like it's missing a front page. So you know this man is not just telling you to go look. You know that he has used this book because it is missing its front page. And if you use books, you know that eventually they fall apart.
They will fall apart indeed. That's been with us from, I think it's been like 7 different countries. It's such a good, I guess a little bit like the Bible. It's not meant to read from like page 1 to the end. Like you open it up, you find passages worth meditating on. You find something that touches you deeply. Like maybe you have to read the same page over and over and over and over again and contemplating its meaning. It's a fantastic book, and I can strongly recommend it. No matter what religion you have, it's gonna be. It's a journey of remembering. You will be like, well, I know this. This makes sense. Like this is not something new. Maybe I had forgot it, but like I know this.
That's exactly how it felt reading the Bible. And then when I first heard of Wayne Dyer and I read his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life.
Yeah,
It felt
fantastic.
like I knew everything that was in there, and what was coming next and what he was going to say. And I had been in 12-step programs for, I think, 2-3 years at that time. And I was like, this all sounds so familiar. And it was remembering the truth, right? It's all in us. We know this, right? And you said this earlier. We are manifestations of God coming, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Exactly.
And so that's why the truth brings to remembrance. And we don't have to, like the world says, we need information, right? Something to put into our formation from the outside, when the truth is we need inspiration. It's already in our spirit to come out. And education, from the Latin word educo, I think it is, that which means to deduce or to bring from within. Education is meant to bring who you are out of you.
But since the Rockefellers hijacked this modern school system, we haven't really got that.
Right.
It's a sad. I think it's an interesting time to be alive, but it saddens me a little bit that basic stuff like this are not being in the forefront. And like you don't even have to dig that deep to realize that, okay, the modern school systems are made to create workers, not free thinkers. And when that starts like boiling down, like, you know, in Sweden, it's illegal to homeschool your kids.
Really?
What does that say about a society? How afraid are a society of free thinkers where it is illegal to homeschool your kids? So if me and Kara were to choose to homeschool our kids, not put them into school, the government can come to my house, fine me $30,000, and then take my kids away from me. Even though like top grades are good, psychology is good, like food, clothes, all of that can be creme de la creme. Boom, we don't allow that.
Wow. You would think over here they would have that, but here's the caveat. They've already trained us so well for so many generations. They don't have to worry about free thinking because we're already programmed.
Yeah, I love a quote from David Icke he says, we have out-sheeped sheep because sheep need a dog. Like we sheep ourselves.
Wow.
They don't have to censor us. We do that ourselves.
The sheep, and I mean, has its own leash.
Exactly. And I mean, let's say working in a yoga school, latest was in Spain. We had a lot of people over, and we had a lot of people from the States over, and just like, I'm a very curious person. I've been to the States once. That was probably over 10 years ago now, with very little like political thing, but just like, because we have had a little chat before we came on, I was like, oh, I've heard so much good about Texas. From the people from the States that I have met, if I were like, oh, Texas is cool, it feels like, oh, that's not really a great thing to say. There are Republicans down there, and like you have to be a little bit tiptoe. Like I don't know how popular it would be like if I were at a Starbucks maybe in Texas, but if I were in Starbucks, in let's say California, maybe I wouldn't be that well met if I were like Trump, 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 Trump. Feels like
Right.
maybe a lot of people would try to. Oh, that's not a very popular thing to say. I mean, it's shifting now, but it
Right.
feels like media is pushing us to be like, oh, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Have you seen
Yeah.
the documentary What is a Woman?
No.
Big shout out to Matt Walsh from Daily Wire, but he went all across the big USA and asked the simple question, what is a woman?
Wow.
And a lot of people struggle to answer that question.
That's powerful.
It's powerful. Yeah, a college professor were like, okay, like if you keep provoking me and saying harmful things, the truth, we're gonna have to stop this interview. When he was just probing, what is a woman? And then the professor says, but a woman is a woman. He goes, but that's a circular definition.
Yeah.
What is a woman? It's a crazy time to be. I mean, as female athletes having to compete against males, and I am the extremist for questioning that. Stuff like that makes me a little bit like, what? I guess we can disagree, but we have to be able to have an open discussion. First Amendment should stand for something. Come on, let us at least talk. And if you're not willing to hear me talk, then I'm starting to wonder, like, why are you so afraid of having this debate?
Right. Right. Because it challenges a core belief that if I had to, our core beliefs are our foundation. And if someone challenges my foundation while my house is standing on it, there's a chance that everything I built my house on is wrong. And I'd have to rebuild from the ground up and question everything, literally, in my life and start over.
Who was it that said it's easier to fool somebody than convince them that they've been fooled?
Uh, I know that quote. I don't know who said it, but
I'll
that is
check it up.
powerful because it's true, right? It's, I feel like that was
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Okay.
It's easier to fool it's easier to fool a person that convince the person that they've been fooled. And I mean, that's just as you said, and it makes sense. Like it doesn't even have to be malicious anymore. Like if you believe a lie, and as you said, you built your whole life around that lie, to question that, it's going to be uncomfortable. And we, as a biological machine, will always move away from pain, aversion to pain, and grasp toward pleasure.
Mhm.
That's innately built in us.
Mhm.
And if only the meat suit, as I call it, would have its thing, it would always avoid that thing, and we would never actually grow and evolve. But luckily enough, there is a spark of the most high one in each and every one of us that is burning. So
Yes. Yes, man. So the why was watching mom take her last breath and wondering, like doing the curiosity, right? Curiosity as to why the breath, why when the breath leaves, do we leave? If that
exactly.
if that is what's holding us together, right? And doesn't inspiration mean God breathed? So like
It's
we are inspired, but we're also like we're inspired to inspire. But I forgot there was something about some meaning of a word that was like God breathed life into. I can't remember what it was.
pneumonia. There is something like that that says in the Bible, at least the Old Greek,
Yeah.
is like the spirit when he breathed into Adam's nostrils. He breathed in, I think they call it pneumonia. It's something along those lines, pneumonia, and it's allegedly from the root word prana, which is the Sanskrit, which means life force.
Mm, that's
So,
what it's
and
like.
then so
Too.
exactly. So that's the root of the Latin word, which I can't pronounce, pneumia, is what God breathed into the nostrils of Adam. And on that note as well, if you have any listeners or yourself that habitually to breathe with the mouth, what if you can take anything away from this chat, always breathe through your nose. Always.
My
A
wife
miracle.
breathes through her nose, her mouth a lot.
Mhm.
She doesn't like stinky smells, and you never
Well,
know when you're gonna find one. So yeah, but not everyone's noses are created equal.
true,
And
true.
so some people's nostrils are a little smaller, but we're meant for different altitudes. Like I feel like I'm meant for tropical because
Yeah,
my nose is bigger,
for
and
sure, for sure,
hers is meant for mountain. Like
for sure.
yeah, but that is powerful. That's powerful. So always, or as often as you can, try to breathe through your nose.
Yep, 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 yep. So there is a few reasons. First of all, we have neuroreceptors in our nose. So when we're breathing through our nose, it will signal to the body that we're safe. So the body will know, okay, he or she is breathing through the nose now, so everything is working well. So noses are for breathing, mouths are for eating. When I'm mouth breathing, I can't control my breath as much. I'm pulling down chemicals and stuff in the air that shouldn't be there straight into the lungs, which gets filtered by the nose.
Oh, wow.
The friction and the temperature of the air when they reach my lungs will be perfectly heated and moisturized, so it enters into the lungs perfectly and clean. Mouth breathing stuff gets pulled down straight into here. I have less control of my breath. I'm signaling to my body that we're not 100%, that we're a little bit of a risk factor. Like you would see somebody, like if I were to show somebody panicking, I would probably breathe into a bag and mouth breathe, compared to if you were to see me sit slowly and steady breathing through my nose. Subconsciously and unconsciously, you will realize that, okay, signals are being sent out here. But one thing that happens when we breathe through our mouth as well is that we're breathing more into our chest, which makes our breath more shallow. We breathe much more in a day, which will make us expel CO2 a lot more, which will then increase our risk for heart disease and stroke, because CO2, the gas, is a vasio and bronchodilator. So it opens up our bloodways and airways. So if we have an imbalance of CO2, our bloodways and our airways will shrink, making blood pump harder, making us get a higher blood pressure, but also putting us in risk of these cardiovascular diseases that might happen. Another thing, when we have low CO2 because of overbreathing, especially through the mouth, is that our oxygen absorption goes down, because as oxygen enters into the body, it's going to be changed into a cellular level. CO2 goes out, oxygen goes in. So if we don't have a balance, I can put in more oxygen, but it doesn't really go into where it should be. So that's just a few importances with nose breathing. And if you have kids that mouth breathe, their jaw will be displaced, creating crooked teeth. Like with myself, I was a habitual mouth breather as a kid. So if you want straight teeth and a good jaw, nose breathe. Don't mouth breathe.
Wow. So I don't know if you saw what was happening on my face, but my wife breathes through her mouth a lot, and she also has anxiety a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
Wow,
sense.
that makes very much sense. I would just habitually, because this is a fascinating thing as well. When we don't use the nose, it will start swell. So it will be harder and harder to breathe through the nose the less we use it. It's like a vicious circle. So if I'm a habitual mouth breather, I would be like, but my nose, it doesn't really feel like I have the capacity or the airways to pull in air. But I promise you that will start becoming better if the nose is being activated and used more.
So now
The
I have.
classic. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The classic thing when going to sleep could be just a tiny piece of tape on the mouth. It's become very popular. Or a nose strip. It's just a tiny piece of basically tape that you sit like this and it opens up a little bit. So you will get the sense and the experience of more air being able to be taken in and out, and then a tiny piece of tape. So you'll train your body to nose breathe on the regular. I recommend both of you, especially your wife, to read the book Breath by James Nestor. It's gonna be
Breath by
it's gonna
Nestor.
yeah, Breath, James Nestor. It's a yellow book and jello. Yellow.
So the question I have, because I remember the first time I ever smoked marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Never said that way. That sounded weird. I don't do it now, but I remember the first time I ever did, it felt like I kept describing it as putting a balloon over my head.
Mm-hmm.
Balloons signified happiness for me.
Okay.
So there was a balloon over my head and everything felt tingly and funny, but I couldn't breathe through my nose.
Mm.
And my brother he kept telling me, it's all in your mind. You can breathe. But I knew, and I knew every time after that I ever did it, as soon as I smoked, especially if it was like actual smoke.
Yeah.
And if I inhaled through my nose, like it constricted my airways and I could not breathe. And that's when the paranoia and the anxiety and all that kick in because I'm mouth breathing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's why I'm theorizing here. I could be wrong, but it just hit me. Maybe that's why it slows the response between the limbic system and the
Prefrontal cortex.
thank you. Thank you. I was like, I know this because you said it's constricting airways, oxygen's not going where it's supposed to go, everything's off balance, and I'm creating a state that I shouldn't be in by simply breathing wrong. And just thinking about that, just talking about that, now I can't breathe through my nose. Like it's starting to feel clogged.
Yeah.
My mind is blown. I hope people watching are understanding like the power of breath right now. Because I don't think I realized how deep it was. I knew I'd done some research. I can when you were talking about the balanced breathing, I remember watching a video about it or reading a book. And I remember I was walking into a counseling center with my ex. And I'm reading about it as we're walking and trying it out. And like, oh, this really works. Like, breathing through this not, and I forgot all about it until just now. Like when you were talking about it, I was like, yeah, I remember trying that a couple times and it actually worked.
It's fantastic. I will challenge you as well to just throughout the day, see if you can do the balancing alternate nostril breathing without using your thumb. So just consciously breathe in through the left, consciously breathe out through the right, consciously breathe in through the right. When you get really subtle at that, it's a fun little thing to just play around with.
I just tried it and I was like, wait a minute, I just felt the air stronger this way.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a fascinating little thing to just play around with. And then you'll start realizing that there's so much like nuances to the breath, and there's so much like that you can discover and rediscover. So it's a fascinating journey.
And there's so much power in our mind. Like, I don't know about you, but when a yoga instructor is telling me to focus on something, like my heart, or imagine there's a big bright orange ball in your groin and you're moving it to the top of your head. And I'm like, why do I feel that right now? Like I literally feel this orange ball of energy moving through and repairing my chakras. And as I'm breathing, and they're like, focus on the surface beneath you as you lay. And I'm like, I did not feel that before, but now that they said that, now I feel my bed, or now I feel the floor. And then when you breathe in and you breathe out, just like let everything die. And so like it feels like I'm dead for a minute. I'm like, how is this happening? Our mind is powerful.
It's the most powerful computer on earth. And I love Sadhguru always saying that, like, if you were to get, I don't know, a new microwave, you would read the instructions. Like, how do we operate this machine? Have you ever read the manual for your body? You're shooting from the hip and like, I wonder why I get sick or overweight or stressed and anxious and depressed. You haven't even read the manual. Like, of course, stuff are gonna go cray when you're operating the craziest machine ever designed.
Yeah, the most powerful, craziest machine ever designed. So when do you do what you do?
Amazing. So I try to get at least one breathwork session in for myself every single day, either morning or evening. Preferably, I do 2 sessions per day. And those are dedicated to just like, okay, everything removed, silence, turn gaze within, eyes closed, no sound, just stillness and silence. And that's just for myself, because I am a strong believer that God is talking to us. And just as you said, when we do prayer, we just have to get silence and hang with him. We don't even have to speak. But I believe that God speaks to us, but his voice is it's just a whisper. So we have to become really quiet to hear it. So I prefer my breathing to be close to a coherent breathing, the one we spoke about, five and a half, 6 breaths per minute, just slowing it down and then listening to God. And in between that, I teach other people how to do that, how to access the states that mystics, sages, religious practitioners have spoken about through the eons with the help of breath. And often we show up like this on a Zoom call. We take about between 30 minutes and an hour, depending on how well versed you are in a practice. And if I gauge that, okay, but you have the capability to sit for an hour, we could do an hour. I usually start with the breath work, only building from 5 minutes up to about 15. If you can sit for 15 minutes undisturbed and still, you have at least 10x most of people attention and focus span. And if you have 10x people's attention and focus span, and you two are gonna do a task, well, you're gonna be 10x better at completing that task, because you can have focus and attention on your task 10x more than them. So then your life will become filled with purpose, and the purpose and the inspiration that you have to share with the world, you will be able to execute as well, which is basic but fundamental techniques lost by eons of human just walking around forgetting things. So that's
TikTok attention spans these days.
it's crazy, brother. It's crazy. I've been like, besides my own choice of career or purpose, I was working in a school as an assisting teacher. Before I was like, okay, well, let's do something else. And yeah, working with kids, seeing how dependent they are on the phone, how much of dopamine junkies we've become. Like, it's absolutely crazy how much we're hunting down that dopamine. Like, and as you said, like TikTok. Oof, luckily I'm not on TikTok, but I have my vices as well, so I'm by no means a sage.
I mean, every social media site is copying after each other. It's carbon copies of carbon copies. As soon as TikTok came out with as soon as Snapchat came out with stories, Facebook, Instagram had stories, LinkedIn has stories, everyone has stories now. Then TikTok came up with the infinite scroll, automatically there for you, 15 to 60 seconds. And it was like, do you remember a time where you'd reach the end of your Facebook feed and it said, that's it for the day?
I don't recall it too much, but I mean,
It was a very short-lived time. It was like very beginning of Facebook 15 years ago, 14 years ago, where you'd scroll and you'd reach the bottom and it said, that's the end of your feed. And you were like, what? That's it? And then you get off. They realized then dopamine is not the reward chemical, it's the chase chemical. And so when open up that endless feed, that endless refresh, and mimic the algorithm after our reticular activating system, where the more we talk about something, the more it's going to put it into our awareness. This is why now my entire Facebook feed is going to be filled with yoga, breath work, and samadhi, and all of these things are going to pop up in my Facebook feed next. Artificial intelligence, algorithms, they're all modeled after actual intelligence and the way our brains actually work.
Yeah.
But when everyone started modeling after TikTok, and then they improved on theirs that had already been there before TikTok, notice TikTok started taking the shorts and the long form content, and now you can have up to 10 minutes or 60 minutes on TikTok.
Okay. Yeah.
So now they understand the value of long form content. Like if I get a bunch of followers based on short form content, that's what they're going to expect from me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're not going to build a deep relationship with us. Like when they watch this whole video, they build a deeper relationship, a deeper connection. They feel like they know us better because we're having an unscripted, in the spirit, beautiful conversation about what we love.
Yeah.
And they get to come along that journey with us and become one with us. Whereas if it was just 15 seconds, okay, if you can even hold my attention for that 15 seconds before I move to the next thing, I'm on TikTok, but I am never on TikTok. I scroll at max twice. First thing that comes up is not something I want to see. I'll scroll over to friends to see what my friends are posting. If I don't see someone I know by the second time or something that's interesting to me, I'm off. I'm just
That's
there to post and get out because I don't want to be sucked in.
strong. Yeah. Because I mean, it is an energy vortex. And if you don't, this is another quote, I think, from Terence McKenna. If you don't have a plan, you will become part of somebody else's plan.
Man,
And it's
come on.
so important to remember, because lead with intention and be clear of your mission, or else it's going to be very blurry real quick, because there is a lot of people out there that has agendas. Well, back to the school system, all of us have been through force-fed information that, I mean, more or less comes out now that it wasn't even true what they fed us.
Right.
And the ones that were the best at swallowing it and then vomiting back up on a paper got great grades. Like, oh my God, you're so intelligent. But is regurgitation actually intelligence, or like, did I miss something along the journey?
That made me
I got a
think
PhD in astrophysics, so
I can regurgitate everything that was in a book. And now I am special. Look, I have a sister that is book smart, but she has no common sense. Point proven.
I mean, yeah. It's
People that are street smart have way more intuition to survive anywhere they are. Speaking of where they are, because we can't fit any more goodness into here, but just remember this: if you do not design your life, someone or something else will. The world is full of people trying to get you involved in their agenda. And if you don't have an agenda for yourself, if you do not have a plan for yourself, you will be roped in someone else's plan. So be intentional.
Be intentional. You might ask, how do I access that agenda? How do I align with God so Satan and all of his companions don't put me in their agenda? Well, you start doing breath work, you turn your gaze within. And if you struggle with doing that, hit me up and I will guide you on the path so you can be set off free. Yeah, that's it, brother.
Can I put it on the screen? What is this? No, not going to read that right now. So where can they find you so that they can get in that relationship to
Cool.
get back in touch with their breath and their true essence so that they can elevate?
You can find me on Instagram, where I am either Nordic Breathwork Academy, which is an account run by my brothers, or Blissful Moments with a Z in the end. It's a little bit funkily spelled, but Instagram Blissful Moments with a Z in the end instead of a S, and or my website Nordic Breathwork Academy oscarsundman.com. If you want to send me, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Oscar Sundman, OscarSundman. Go check me out on YouTube as well. I have some free stuff there, yoga nidras and breathwork. So that's Nordic Breathwork Academy. And you'll be able to access, I think we're at 80 videos now with visualizations, meditations, breathworks. So yeah, feel free to go and enjoy it.
I'm gonna put all of those in the comments. Wow. So NordicBreathworkAcademy.com. That's Nordic Breathwork, NORDIC, Breathwork Academy, all one word, no spaces, guys. You're gonna find that on Instagram, YouTube, and then Blissful Moments on Instagram with a Z. Si moi je comprends ce que un Z is a Z. Most people won't understand Z. They're like, what, a Z? What's a Z? I've never.
How do I say? Z, okay.
Blissful Moments with a Z. I got it. I hope they got it.
Well,
Thanks.
brother, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I hope we can do it again.
So we definitely will have to have a part 2 because this was, look, I'm apologizing here for Kiara because I watched back our video and I was blabbing the whole time. And I'm like, could you shut up? Like, people want to see the pretty girl. Like, they don't want to hear from you. So I think we need a part 2 because that was just, I couldn't watch it. It was painful for me to watch it. They want to hear the accent. They want to hear about her emotion coaching, not me. So I feel we need a redo, something about emotions coaching. So there will definitely, and maybe we could do a team, right? Like how the emotions and the breath pair together, but it's all a learning experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect as an interviewer, and I'm sure Larry King and Oprah weren't in the beginning either. They had to evolve. So
Well, what I have seen today has been a king, and maybe what preceded that was a clown or the joker or the fool. But I mean, what I have experienced is nothing but class, brother. It's been amazing. I'm extremely impressed on how you have facilitated the space, the questions you came up with. It's been really nice to reflect from my side as well on this journey. So it's been really cool. I'm glad that you hold the space. You mentioned a 12-step program. So maybe we can just finish this with the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to accept the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Amen. I'm going to stop the recording here. We're going to chat for just a second. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, Rob.